Coach Brian again with Northwest Elite Spirit, and this is my take on It Was a Cougar, my last video where I read an excerpt from Carlos Castaneda's book Journey to Ixtlan, the very ending of the chapter of The Mood of a Warrior. And so Don Juan and Carlos have returned to the house and slept, and when Carlos gets up, he's poring over his notes and he's astounded by like the events. He can't believe that the things went on. They saw a cougar and were chased by a cougar, and his excuse right now for not believing it is he's saying it all seems like it was orchestrated for my benefit. And it was all orchestrated for his benefit. Like Don Juan has already told him that. He's like, the little crow told me to bring you here. The only thing to do here, the only thing that's here are like big cats. And so I want to show you how a hunter acts, which is a hunter knows what buttons to push to get the results he wants. And so, yeah, luring the cat in was orchestrated. Luring the water rats in was orchestrated, and all that was orchestrated towards demonstrating to Carlos that how a hunter acts. And then when the cougar showed up, how a warrior acts, and a warrior acts with abandon and like complete control. And if you go back and you listen to that excerpt, there's a point or a couple points. So Carlos is able to run through the woods in the dark, and he's able to climb a steep cliff or a bluff in the dark. And Don Juan says, like, the way you acted, if you saw yourself do that in the daytime, you wouldn't be able to believe what you did. And Carlos did it, and he still can't believe it. Well, I wouldn't say he can't believe it. He was there. It happened. He knows it happened, but he won't allow himself to admit it. So once again, he wants to be like the smartest person in the room, right? He wants to be the guy who knows everything. And in his world, there aren't big cats that can be lured and used as demonstration for things. And so though Carlos knows exactly what happens, like Carlos likes to argue, and you would say though you can't argue with what you saw with your own eyes, yet Carlos is able to, and I think a lot of us are able to, and I'll get into that a little bit later. So Don Juan is also, because Carlos is like, he's really hyper focused on how he saw a big cat. And Don Juan's like, what's your deal with cats? Like, there's all kinds of animals out here. There's probably thousands of big cats out there. Why are you being so weird about the cat? And Carlos is like, well, they don't like really exist in Carlos's world. Like, things like that don't ever come even close to happening in Carlos's world. But even that is a matter of perception. Like, I saw a cougar. My son and I saw a cougar one day, and I think it was coming for us out of the brush and stopped. And I'll go into the story. So we had a bunch of family over. We lived on 27 acres up against a forest. And in this forest, it was said by the neighbors that there was a cougar that came around every so often. And the last time it was seen was 3 years ago on the property that I lived on. And so we have a family get-together, and to get to this forest, you go through a small prairie, a little thin strip of forest, a bigger prairie, and then you hit the forest. And then there's patches of prairie throughout, hop, skipping, and jumping. Very large forest. And I remember my son's daughter got antsy right away, so they turned back like immediately, barely out of the driveway. The driveway turned into a forest road that turned into the forest. So she turned back with my son's wife. And then my youngest boy decided he didn't want to walk with us anymore. And so it was just my oldest and I. We go through the small stretch of prairie, through the small stretch of forest, come out on the bigger prairie, and we're about to drop down into the forest. Kind of goes like this, like drops down into the forest from the prairie. And in that entrance, right around the corner as you drop in, I had seen a barred owl there twice. And I scared it away the first time, and the second time when I was more quiet, because I wanted to see if I could see it, it stuck around a little longer. So I was telling my son, as we were dropping down to go around this corner, that we needed to be quiet because there's possibly a big old white beautiful owl out here. And we get really quiet, and we go down around the corner, and we hear like a commotion coming out from behind us. There's like the forest kind of like comes around like this and then dips in at the trail and comes back out. And so around, like along the border, like right along the border of the forest and the prairie, we hear this commotion from behind us and to the left. Spin around and look, and there's a big old cougar, hungry looking cougar. And I don't mean like he was salivating or anything like that. He was really big, but he looked old and grizzled and skinny. And he stopped. So like we whipped our heads around, and he stopped. And he was looking at us, and immediately I went like Hulk mode. I'm like screaming, "You emmer effer, like you don't you dare, making this big commotion, getting as big as I can. I'm 5'4", you know. I used to tell people I was 5'5", but I'm 5'4", and just got as big as I could, and don't you do it, emmer effer, you know, screaming at him, and like Hulk mode. And then I got like and that was like all from adrenaline. I had an adrenaline dump, like, and I like gave in a little bit, and I was kind of like, ugh. And then the cougar took a step towards us, and I got really hyped. And we didn't have any sticks or anything to like bang around or rocks to throw. It's just like all prairie brush. So I took off my hat and I took a step towards it, and I started beating the brush. Come on, mother effer, you know, screaming at it like, ah. Just full Hulk mode, and it slunk down into the forest and went away. So that is my encounter with and what I mean by you know, not in Carlos's world is a matter of perception. So this happened just outside of a pretty well populated growing city, and it's got like a bunch of military homes built along the edge of the forest, and they just keep chopping away at the forest, adding more like rows and rows of these family homes. And you know, while this monster was staring us down and we were crapping our pants, you could hear kids playing on the other side of the fence, not like a quarter mile away. So Carlos may try to deny that there's these things, but they're there. It's just if you know it or not, matter of perception, I guess. And Carlos, you know, just having earlier in the chapter, you'd have to go back a couple videos, but early in the chapter he was breaking down and saying, you know, your world is too strong for me, it's too real for me, your ways are too right, and I've like been ruined by my circumstances, and so I can't do this. I can't be the like upright, honorable hunter warrior that you're asking me to be. And he breaks down and cries over it. And now, so full of confidence that he's right and Don Juan's wrong. It's so strange how he goes back and forth like that. But at the same time, like we all do, we all go back and forth like that with our own things. Where we just want to be right, or the strong one, or the smart one, or whatever is going on in that guy's head right now. And so Don Juan is explaining to him that, yeah, it was orchestrated basically, like I brought you here to show you how a hunter acts and how a warrior acts. And you asked like how a hunter can be completely abandoned yet in full control at the same time. And Carlos has scrambled up this this bluff. He's ran through the dark. But he can't. He's saying, I don't understand how this applies to people. And you know, I've gone over this one before a little bit. I don't understand how this applies to people because people are different, and like they offend and they're manipulative and they're mean and these sorts of things. And Don Juan is telling him that, oh, and Don Juan is saying, like, you acted with the mood of a warrior. And Carlos, though he wants it, you know, he wants to be, he says he wants to act with the mood of a warrior. He believes that he can't. And even when he does, he won't accept that it happened. Because he's just so argumentative and needing to be, I don't even know what he needs to be, honestly, at this point. Maybe he talks about it later on. And I know he's done some interviews and stuff, and maybe watch some more of those and see if he says, like, why he just why he couldn't accept that he had completed the task, that he had done the thing that he set out to do. And a lot of us do that. Like, we don't give ourselves credit. It's a really toxic trait that people have, where they just cannot give themselves credit for anything. They always have to write it off, to the point where he's like talking to Don Juan, like Don Juan's kind of dumb, you know, and like, you know, being manipulative and mean to someone that he cares about him, in order to deny reality. Man, and how many of us do that? And Don Juan has explained to him, like, you completed the task. You acted in with abandon. Like, it was just automatic. Your actions were just automatic, at the same time in control. Like, you ran through the dark, that takes control. You climbed that bluff, that takes control. You jumped down from the tree and helped me gather the tools or the traps, you know, like, the whole entire time you just acted and got things done and didn't stop to worry about anything. You just acted. And Carlos is, and that a person has to take that mood into their entire lives, everything they do. And Carlos is saying, well, I can't do that with people because people are manipulative and cruel and mean, and like they trick you and things like this. And Don Juan is saying, the two worlds aren't so different. Like, you don't know if that big cat was manipulative or just being mean, or its intentions at all. You just knew there was danger and you acted. And that's what a warrior does. And Carlos is saying that what I did was no mood of a warrior or anything like that. I was just fear. I was scared. And Don Juan, again, like, it's practical. Don Juan said, yeah, I know you didn't, that I used that to trigger your understanding. So now you know that you can get it together and you can act like a warrior, and you can start applying this to all the things, like all the things in your life. Don Juan, or Carlos, is arguing that that's not applicable because men are mean, blah, blah, blah. And Don Juan is saying it is applicable to men. So what I'm thinking about how it's applicable to men is, like, a hunter knows how to lure its prey, and a warrior knows how not to be lured into traps. So when dealing with people, you know, like, I guess what their triggers are or their things are that will help you to get what you want out of the situation or get away from the situation. And people also know your hooks, so people know ways to hook you, and those, I guess, those could be traps, right? Like, if they use them to bait you and then harm you, or you know, keep you, that a warrior avoids those things. And a hunter warrior also is completely honest. Like Carlos, he doesn't want to be completely honest, but when we're completely honest, we can see when someone's trying to hook us. And so when somebody's preying on us, like a big cat, or, you know, just a malicious person who's preying on us, we know, we have red flags. And so instead of crumbling under that pressure, a warrior rises up and does what he will in that situation, be it, you know, crush his enemy or disappear and like, you know, Aikido that person and go untouched. And Carlos is saying that he just can't understand how what happened with the big cat can apply to his life, and it seems arbitrary to just apply the mood of a warrior to everything. And Don Juan says, I know, these things are hard. And basically what he's saying is like, you have to try again. Keep trying them until you have some sort of breakthrough. So I may fail in manifesting the mood of a warrior, but I can get a taste for it and get better at it and keep approaching new situations and old situations with the mood of a warrior, with complete abandon yet complete control at the same time. When I say complete abandon, I mean like abandonment. I encourage everybody, like if you have something that you love to do or some people that you love to be around, abandon everything else and go all in on those people and on those things. And just of course, you know, there's things in the world that we have to take care of, but I encourage people to abandon themselves completely to the tasks of their choosing. And so there's that. And then so you've decided you're all in on the task, and now there's steps you can take. There's things you can do. And maybe you're on the path and you don't even know the things you can do. And then so the first step would be to like start seeing some of the things you can do. And we start seeing what we can do by doing. And you don't have to start big. You can start small and go from there and eventually build that mood, strengthen that mood.